Gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening and welcome to another exciting show. Now, our guest needs no introduction, but I will give him an introduction. It's Dr. Miles Fleetwood. Good evening, Miles. And
Good evening.
hang on.
Good evening, everyone.
And we're going to talk tonight. Oh, by the way, before I start any further, Deb was due to be on as the co-host, but unfortunately, she's still a little bit groggy. She's ill. She's got a bad cold, and she's doing the things that you should do. She's having plenty of lemon and whatever, and honey and lemon. That's the thing. But it's really taken her down a bit, and there's a nasty bug that's going around, I think. So that's the thing. So she'll be back hopefully for Monday's show with John Hamer. Now tonight, Miles is going to talk about gut reaction, and we all have gut feeling, but also what people don't realise, and I don't know whether Miles is going to cover this or not, but everyone I've come up against that's had a nervous breakdown has had stomach troubles. And it's something I've got the t-shirt and the mug and the bonus card for. But so the stomach, they say, is your second brain, because it's a kind of link there with gut feeling. So over to you, Miles, with gut reaction.
Well, hello there. It's great to be back on the show again, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the ailments that the gut suffers as a consequence of bad diet and indeed bad digestion itself. And these are all indeed linked to mental health problems as well as physical health problems. It's a colleague of mine actually wrote a book a long time ago called Gut Reaction. It's a very good book if you want to see the brain gut connection, and her name was Gudrun Johnson, and I'm sure that you could find that book in the library or on Amazon or whatever. This is slightly different. I'm going to be talking much more about the physical problems of the gut, but there are mental health problems that are prevalent because we have poor digestion or poor activity within certain areas of the digestive tract, or indeed poisons in the gut. Now, in our previous shows, we've looked at how you can be deficient in certain nutrients by eating foods that have a low nutritional value, and we were talking then about the soils, how they've lost a lot of their mineral base, how the storage of certain foods and fast foods and how the nutrients have been destroyed in them, and storage of foods and preparation of foods and things like that. We're going to move on. There are actually 3 ways that you can be nutritionally deficient. One is to have foods that have not got the nutrients in. Secondly, we can have bad or poor digestion, so we can have a diet that's great, but unfortunately our digestive system is inadequate in some way, and so we don't get the nutrients that we're expecting to get. I did actually write down a whole load of ailments, but there's so many ailments that I think we're better discussing them on almost an ad hoc basis, having a little question and answer session. So I'm just going to skip through some of my notes and give you an overview of what I've written actually, rather than a specific. Now, a lot of people have been diagnosed. It's one of the biggest complaints that I see in my clinic, and a lot of the patients are told by their doctor, oh, you've got IBS, or oh, you've got IBD. Well, that's all very well, and they just assume that the patient is aware of what they're saying, because very often the patient comes to me and says, oh, I've got a terrible disease, I've got IBS. Well, that's actually a non-specific diagnosis. So that can include quite minor things right up to very serious complaints. So I'm not going to look at IBS. I'm going to be looking at the general well-being of the gut and the general health of the gut. And I'm going to start at the top part of the gut. We actually start digesting, in fact, before the top part of the gut, we start digesting from the thoughts that are going on in our minds. So when we smell food cooking, how often have you walked into your house and you smelt food cooking and you said, that smells fantastic? Where do you go to? You go up to the kitchen, you lift the lid on the pot and you have a smell on that and it smells fantastic. I don't know what it would be, some soup, a casserole, anything. I think most people have done that in their lifetime. What's happening there, you're getting the sensory receptors of smell are telling you that you've got food ready to come, and it's preparing you for digestion. So after you see, smell and hear your food, you're ready to start digesting. And the first part of digestion is actually mechanical. It's inside the mouth, and food doesn't come in any one shape, size or design. So our mouths have to be multi-purpose, as we're omnivorous. And so we need to be able to cut food, and that happens at the front of the mouth with the incisors. We need to be able to crush food. That happens in the middle of the mouth and the back of the mouth with the molars and the premolars. And our ancestry made us that we would have had fangs. And a lot of people can still see evidence of these fangs. They're called the canine teeth. And those canine teeth, although greatly reduced in most people well-being, in most people it's an ancestral thing. So we move on past that, and we do get a small amount of amylase being produced and ptyalin inside the mouth, and this is mainly for digesting sugars and starches. So the tongue actually does another job as well, and that is it actually helps you to identify what kind of food you've got. So if you've got a mouthful of protein, you won't be producing that ptyalin and that amylase inside your mouth. The digestive tract will make you chew a little bit longer, and it will go down into the stomach, where the stomach will be producing incredibly high acidic state. For those of you who sort of remember your chemistry days, the acid inside the stomach should be around 1 or 2, pH of around 1 or 2, and it's hydrochloric acid, so it's dangerous stuff. The pH of people who are nutritionally inadequate in this way would be anything about 3 or above, maybe actually above 3. 3 would probably just about be sufficient to break down most of the protein that we deal with today. Now, the surprising thing, the first ailment I'm going to talk to you about, because we've hit that area, is the stomach. It's very, very interesting that people who suffer from hiatus hernia or from acid reflux or from a stomach ulcer, a peptic ulcer, they're actually all acid deficient. The acid is there not just to digest our food, it also kills off virtually all bacteria. Nothing can survive it. So the most common cause, by far the most common cause of a stomach ulcer, is a bug called Helicobacter pylorus. And this bug, as the name suggests, if you know your Latin, pylorus is stomach. So it's a Helicobacter bacterium that inhabits the stomach and lives there. And it lives there quite happily because there's not enough stomach acid to kill it. And what do our doctors do? Sadly, because they see it as a temporary problem, they will reduce the stomach acid with what they call a proton pump inhibitor, or PPI, drugs such as omeprazole, lansoprazole, pantoprazole, etc. There's a whole range of them, which you'll go, oh, thanks, doc, because that's eased all the pain. I don't get any pain now. They'll then give you some antibiotic, and that will be given to you to kill off the H. pylori, and then you'll be given that for probably a 12-week course, something along those lines. And sadly, the doc will probably leave you on that PI, that proton pump inhibitor, which stops you digesting properly. You then are fine for a few months, maybe even a few years, but you stayed on the PPI because he's forgotten to take you off it. And lo and behold, you get another ulcer, and it's, oh, you're just unlucky. You're just the person who gets ulcers. So it's a self-defeating problem. You should be. So something's gone a bit weird here. You should be getting your own stomach acids coming back into a much more normal status and a much more normal situation. If you don't, you won't be able to digest protein properly. And here we go with Chris's brain gut link. A lot of the amino acids that we are dependent upon, i.e. the essential amino acids, an awful lot of them are found in the meat products. In fact, it is meat products or animal products alone that can provide us with high biological value proteins, with the exception of a few beans, quinoa, and I think that's about it from the plant-based products. And even then, they're not provided, these amino acids are not provided in the right levels. The amino acids will actually alter your mood and your attitude to life, the way in which you embrace life will be changed by those amino acids. You can actually enhance people's memory, you can enhance people's relationships by changing these amino acids. And so they're playing a big part in you being you, and you having that brain balance due to absorbing the right amino acids. I'm not saying all meat eaters are eating the right food. They're not, unfortunately, because a lot of them are having pre-prepared meats and pre-prepared products, animal products, which very often has damaged a lot of those amino acids. For those who aren't aware, amino acids are the building blocks of protein, and the building blocks of protein literally do that. They rebuild bits of protein inside our bodies. So that's one of the links to the gut and brain. We then move on from the stomach. We move into the duodenum. Actually, let's go back a little bit. Sorry. If you also have low stomach acid, you won't metabolize minerals properly, because minerals, almost all the minerals, need hydrochloric acid to help them go across that gut boundary, the gut wall boundary. So you will probably be deficient in minerals, and I'm sure that a lot of the ladies out there will understand the risks of this more than perhaps some of the men, because the the minerals are what keep your skeleton healthy and fit and strong. So without those, over a long period of time, you would increase your risk of developing something like osteoporosis. The minerals, of course, are involved in helping you to function and helping you to think, because they're also what are called electrolytes. This is where they're involved in nerve function. So again, a huge area of concern. If you've not got enough stomach acid, you probably will develop some other health issues. And one of the health issues that does concern the digestive tract is the development of gallstones. If you've got low stomach acid, you're much more prone to getting gallstones. If you've got gallstones, we'll discuss those in just a moment, because I'm going to move on to the gallbladder in just a moment. That is probable that you've had a fairly substantial time of having a low stomach acid. The other things that are of major concern, major interest to me anyway, as a nutritionist, the fact that most people who have low stomach acid also have arthritic problems, mainly osteoarthritic problems. And it's probably because they can't rebuild that cartilage, because cartilage is quite hard to rebuild anyway. That's right, rebuild cartilage, because a lot of doctors say you can't rebuild cartilage. If you couldn't rebuild cartilage, your joints would last about 7 years maximum, because every single cell in your body is replaced every 7 years. So, or should be replaced every 7 years. So that's another problem of a shortage of stomach acid. Then we've got two more very big problems, and they are hypertension or high blood pressure, and hypercholestemia, which is high cholesterol. Both of those are much more prevalent in people who either have drugs lowering their stomach acid, so those PPIs again, or indeed with people who have inherently low stomach acid. So if your stomach acid is low, you better get it sorted. You better increase the amount of stomach acid that you produce, and I'll tell you how to do that at the end. The fact that so many things are dependent upon it, so many health issues are dependent upon it, is an imperative part of your health, that you get your stomach acid up to the right level. So what have we got after stomach acid? We go down through the stomach to the into the duodenum, and the duodenum is the small intestine. Now the small intestine is yet another area that can get compromised. I'm going to scoot over the small intestine quite quickly, only because of the fact that it's a lot more complicated than probably all of the other areas. And if someone wants to contact me about it, then feel free to give me a call. You'll see on the bottom of the screen now the Abbey Health Foods number, and I will talk to that person about it. The next thing I am going to talk about, though, is an ailment called Crohn's disease. Now, Crohn's disease, in fact, I'm going to group it with another ailment called ulcerative colitis. Crohn's disease is like a more advanced form of ulcerative colitis. So I will start off talking about Crohn's, and then you'll see what happens. I will link in I will start talking about Crohn's, and I will link into ulcerative colitis. As we're going down the digestive tract, Crohn's is actually an ulcerative situation. So like ulcerative colitis, it's ulcers, but not just in the colon as it is in ulcerative colitis. These are ulcers that are also found in the small intestine, and these can cause incredible problems for digestion. This is probably the worst disease that your digestive tract is likely to get beyond ailments that are life-threatening, such as cancer. The Crohn's disease, you will have a leaky gut, almost certainly. So there will be a high percentage, very high percentage of foods that you are leaking into your bloodstream. And you might say, well, surely that's what we want to happen. You know, we want foods to go through into the bloodstream. Well, we don't actually. We want the elements from the food to go into the bloodstream. We don't want bits of carrot floating around in your bloodstream. We want the carotenoids from the or carotenoids from the color of the carrot. We want some of the sugars from the carrot. We want the fibrous material to carry on going down the gut and clearing and cleansing the gut, and the other nutrients, the vitamin C, the vitamin E from the carrot going into the bloodstream. So it's at this stage that we start digesting that. Most of the vitamins that we get are actually absorbed in that small intestine. And so having ulcers in there is a huge problem. And the ways in which we would help to relieve symptoms of the ulcerative colitis would be to take probably something that's very anti-inflammatory. I commonly use aloe vera for this in the clinic I hold, and it works beautifully well. I've also used other mucilaginous herbs like slippery elm food, like there's a couple of Chinese herbs that also are involved in making more secretions inside the gut. So as we move down, we move to the gallbladder area and the pancreas. Now, ulcerative colitis, something's causing those ulcers. So the pancreas produces enzymes that break down the foods. So it could be that you've not got enough pancreatic enzymes. The gallbladder secretes bile when you have fatty foods. And so you could be developing problems with those fats because you've got gallstones. And often people with gallstones can't really eat much fat at all. They have to go on a low fat or no fat diet, which is also bad for them. You want the right fats and you want the good fats. And you want plenty of those good fats. So moving further down, we then come to the colon, or the large intestine. And the large intestine in Crohn's disease is also ulcerated. And this ulceration in the entire length of the digestive tract, it can be due to infection. It can be due to poor microbiome. I'll explain that in a moment. And it can be due to literally having foods that you just are struggling with and that you've got intolerances to. Often this is caused by fermentation and putrefaction. Well, if we get fermentation, that's pretty bad. And a lot of people that come into my clinic with this problem have reported that they feel a little bit dizzy when they eat certain sugary foods or pickles or fermented foods. And I don't mean alcohol, although I do and I don't mean alcohol. Fermented foods as in vinegar, or as in yes, the pickles that we were talking about, or indeed kimchi or sauerkraut. And when they report this to me, I immediately know that they've got a problem whereby they've got some form of fermentation, and that fermentation is actually that they're turning sugars into alcohol themselves. So it's a very dangerous situation to be in. Even more dangerous, in my opinion, is where you get putrefaction. And putrefaction happens to proteins. So if you're not breaking down proteins properly and you're not able to digest proteins, you've got an even bigger problem on your hands, because that putrefaction, if you think of it like a bowl of apples or cherries and one of them's gone bad, it very quickly affects the ones that are lying next to that one that's gone bad. It's the same in your gut. If you've got some putrefaction going on, it will, and that's sitting next to an area of your colon, it will very quickly start causing diseases of that area of the colon, which will make that unable to absorb nutrients. And it's in your colon that the minerals are mainly absorbed, and water from your stools. So it's they're two very bad diseases. Crohn's is definitely the worst of those two, but ulcerative colitis is not too far behind. The other illness that I was going to talk to you about tonight is on the next sheet. No, it's on the sheet after that. Is diverticulitis. And diverticulitis is actually it only concerns the colon, so it's a slightly different disease in that way. It only concerns the colon, and it's almost like a hernia inside the colon. So you get these pockets developing, and I'm afraid Chris and myself are probably old enough to have diverticular pockets, both of us. My lecturer used to say anyone over the age of 35 has probably got diverticulitis of some kind. I don't think either of us show particular symptoms of it, so we must be quite low in our in experiencing the symptoms of this disease. The diverticular pockets are literally pockets on the side of your colon, and unfortunately the colon has a sort of peristalsis about it. It normally would act like, I don't know if people understand what peristalsis is. It would normally react by squeezing the fecal matter along the tube that is the colon. Unfortunately, it's lost all its strength and lost all of its muscle power where these diverticular pockets are. And these diverticular pockets can be anything from the size of a sort of probably a large pea or a bean, right up to sort of grapefruit size, which is obviously going to cause all sorts of problems. And what happens is, because there's little or no peristalsis taking place, so none of this squeezing is the fecal matter along, it actually stagnates in there. And when it stagnates in there, you get this rotten, again, fermenting or putrefaction of the feces that's in that area. And people feel very unwell with it and get a great deal of pain. So there's yet other ways to treat this. So I'm going to very, very quickly go through how I would treat most ailments of the gut. And it is very, very quick. This is a very simplistic view on it. But if we've got low stomach acid, we would probably see high amounts of heartburn, high amounts of burping and reflux of that food. It's called GORD, the disease, or gastroesophageal reflux disease. And this GORD, often people sort of have to take a second breath. They experience pain in the middle of their chest. If we've got that, I would encourage increasing stomach acid. We've got a number of ways of increasing stomach acid in both the short, medium and long term. There's a very good herb called Century, which would relieve symptoms very, very quickly of this, probably within a week for most people. But you would need to stop your PPIs if you're taking a PPI, a proton pump inhibitor. We could also actually give hydrochloric acid to you if you were that insufficient, and that would encourage you still to stimulate you to producing more hydrochloric acid and pepsin. But it's not my favorite way of doing it, because it should be you who's producing the acid rather than giving you more acid. And then some of the nutrients that are really involved in stomach acid production, certain B vitamins, especially B6, and zinc is very involved in stomach acid production. So I would encourage adding those into your diet, some form of supplement that contained those, at least those two. It'd probably be better to get a decent multivit and multi-mineral and do it that way. That would give you more stomach acid. The next bit, if you've got Crohn's disease or diverticulitis, really you need to see someone about this, and probably a nutritionist is your best angle on this. These are very painful diseases, and the way that the medical profession deals with it is with steroids and antispasmodic drugs to stop the gut going into spasm. They kind of work, but they actually make the disease worse. So I would encourage seeing someone about that. And again, anyone wants to phone me up, as long as we're not on the phone for hours on end, I'm happy to give you some advice on it. The diverticular pockets, we really need to clean out the colon. We really need to get that colon cleaned and recolonize it with the right bacteria, as we do probably with all of the ailments, because of the fact that the wrong biome, what I mean by that is the gut flora and fauna. They're probiotics. You've got to get an acid tolerant probiotic. As long as you've got about 2, maybe 4 billion per capsule, and you're taking a few per day, few capsules per day if you've got these problems, so anything from 3 upwards, you'd recolonize the gut with that. So the way that I would do it with the diverticular problem, we would give you some form of soluble fiber. We don't want an insoluble fiber. We want soluble fiber, lots of it. The difference between soluble fiber and insoluble fiber, if you get hold of, if you've ever looked at the pan after you've cooked a pan full of porridge oats, and you've got a spoon in there, and it's kind of sticky, the pan, and it's got a little bit of porridge oat, but it's all broken down. It's a kind of sticky mucilaginous coating on the pan once you've cooked it. That is the soluble fiber. That's the stuff we want. And so porridge oats is quite a good thing to have. It's about 80% soluble, in somewhere in that region, and about 20% insoluble. Whereas shreddies or something like that would give you somewhere around about 95% insoluble fiber. They just don't dissolve into water. That would absolutely savage your insides if you had any of the ailments that we've discussed, really. So we need to clear out those diverticular pockets. We then would need to start colonizing it with the right bacteria. And the right bacteria, these probiotics, it should have some lactobacillus bifidum in it as well. That's a very important one to start the colonization. And lactobacillus acidophilus is yet another one that's a very important probiotic. It would be handy if we had some inulin, which is a prebiotic. This conditions the gut and lets the probiotics stabilize and get a good hold inside the gut. Lastly, but not least, I would also, as a precautionary, suggest that the patient had some enzymes, at least for a short period of time. And when I say a short period of time, I mean at least a month, probably 3, quite realistically. In fact, I think John has actually got some of that to show you. We have a combination product called John. What am I on about? Chris has got some of that to show. We have a combination product called Transipure that we sell, and this contains all of the above. And it's not just for that. It's also a mighty good laxative, because it's not truly a laxative, but it has a laxative effect. It sort of stimulates the gut. It enhances the gut's reaction. It enhances the way in which you digest, and conditions at the same time. So yeah, some Transipure would be a great thing. And there it is in water. Unfortunately, it goes a little bit like wallpaper paste. Chris is a braver man than me.
Actually, Miles, I've actually found it's the opposite. It tends to, I wouldn't say bind you up. It makes, how can I say this without putting people off their tea? It's the opposite to diarrhea, shall we say?
Right. Well, what it's doing, because it's a regulator, it's not a laxative. But if you were constipated, it would aid you clearing the gut. If you had diarrhea, because of that fiber in there, that soluble fiber, it holds moisture, so it would actually aid you going to the toilet if you had constipation. So and if you had diarrhea, it would absorb the moisture, and so therefore make a more solid stool.
This is brilliant.
All-rounder. Yeah,
that's right. And you get it from Miles, and also as I say, this here is mixed. It looks disgusting. It's just like drinking ordinary water. Seriously, it looks like wallpaper paste, but you notice, look, it's not a problem. There's no real taste to it, really. I kind of enjoy it. It sounds a bit weird. There's not a problem there.
Because you're weird, Chris.
I'm weird, yeah. What do you want to show the other ones? The tablets yet?
Well, so some of the other enzymes that we've got, this is a sort of middle of the road enzymes. This is a kind of all-rounder. And this one will help with digesting protein, carbohydrates, complex carbs, and even sugars. It's an all-round. It's quite a reasonable product, but it's not a specialist one. I've got some quite specialist products in the shop which will only help you with protein, or only help you with carbohydrate, complex carbs, for example. So if you had a problem with those, well, then we would recommend those particular products. So I think we're there. I think that I've covered a lot of angles there, and I must admit I'm struggling a bit here because my screen's gone rather strange. Hold on a moment. Let me see if I can. No, okay.
Okay.
I think technical problems have followed Chris all this week, so it's nothing strange here. We're still experiencing, or I am. Basically, on the picture, I can see my jumper. It's lovely, but unfortunately, I can't see my head, and I'm sure that a lot of people
I can see you.
Prefer that
we
picture.
can see you okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk.
Well, I can carry on. That's fine. Okay, so has anyone got any questions or any queries?
Yes, we've got some quick questions here. I've asked people to put them through. And first of all, it's not really a question as such. Louise Tom has said, I've given up on processed carbs, only organic meat from local farm shop and veg/banana. I'm type 1 diabetic and I've noticed a difference already in gut, energy level, sleep, blood sugars. Now that's interesting. And then she goes on to say, I'm not sure we can mention. Can we mention this? All the way to kill parasites.
Anyway,
I'm doing the protocol, hence my change of diet. Parasites feed on carb sugar. I only do proper honey. Available from Abbey Health Foods. That's actually produced locally, isn't it, Miles? Because I bought some the other day. You all right, Miles? You still there?
Yeah. I'm still here. Yeah, I'm still here. I don't know what's going on. We've got the gremlins back, I'm afraid, Chris. But let's carry on.
That's right. And I need some acupuncture from last Monday when it went wrong.
Yeah. the better the quality of food. I mean, this is absolutely incredible. I love to think that if I've encouraged that in some way, shape or form, get to know your local farm shop and make sure it's good quality gear. Get to know the local producers. If you can get local produce that's grass-fed beef or grass-fed lamb, if you're a meat eater. If not, the local produce of the vegetables grown in proper soils. And it doesn't have to be organic, but it's probably better if it is. But you're going to get better foods, you know, and why not I'm going to give you an early suggestion for a New Year's resolution. Why not just grow, if you've never grown any crops before, why not just grow some beans, some runner beans? They're so easy to grow. They're fantastic taste. And really, you just get such a good supply. If you get them going and you grow them on and plant them out sort of May time, you'll have beans all the way through the summer, freshly grown. You can go out and pick them and cook them straight away. I even pick the small ones and put them into salads and things like that, and I don't cook them at all, just wash them off. So grow some of your own produce, you know, become your own farmer. Yeah, great idea.
I agree with you. This is an interesting one. I'd like to know the answer to this. Louise Tom said, I make my own magnesium oil. Next question is how? Yeah,
that interests me.
I'm intrigued.
Why not? If you know how to do it, there's nothing wrong with that. But I haven't made it myself. So there we are. There's someone who's way ahead of me.
No, I don't know how to do it. Yorkshire Rose is actually in Canada. Says a close friend of mine may have colon cancer. Does Miles have any recommendations for healing? Diet, probiotic, and/or supplements recommendations? She is on a keto diet. Can I email him or you, Chris? Well, I think that you can email me. I don't mind.
I take that over for a minute, Chris?
Certainly.
I do a lot of cancer work. In fact, my thesis was on cancer care. There are things that can be done, or potentially there's things that can be done, I should say. I don't handle emails. The last time I did any shows and any emails, I was overwhelmed with it, and people just got angry with me. So if you want to phone me up on that number going along there, then by all means phone me up. If you're where were you, in Canada, I think, weren't you?
Canada, yeah.
Yeah.
Phone up.
You can try that number when it what's Canada, about 8 hours difference,
6 hours.
isn't it?
I think it's 6 hours. Depends on what side.
Hours? Depends which side, doesn't it, really?
Between, I think, 5 hours and 10 hours or something like that, depending on what side, but it's the Pacific side or the Atlantic side.
If not, Lee, how can we do this? Phone me up when you can, and we'll arrange another chat. But coming back to it, there's a number of things that can be helpful with cancer, and especially stomach cancer. We need to identify what's going on and what's happened and how they've developed this cancer. So it's not a question of taking a supplement. It's a question of completely restructuring this person's diet and restructuring this person's supplementation. The nutrient that I've found incredibly helpful for a whole range of cancers is actually an enzyme, and it's an enzyme that's found in pineapple. And I've found some people are tolerant to it when they have stomach cancer, and some are not, because if there's perforations inside the stomach, this will really make them hop around. They'll be in a great deal of pain, and so you have to be very careful. They'd have to take a small amount of bromelain to start off with. So if it comes in a capsule, for example, give them a quarter of the capsule and be ready with something quite horrendous I wouldn't normally recommend to a cancer patient, but a glass of milk. Bromelain also digests protein. So if you can get it into the bloodstream, it'll hit the cancer, and it breaks down the cell wall and allows the immune system access to the cancer cells. So that would be a way of dealing with it. And then there's various other mechanisms that I can think of, including some food products and some supplementary products. So I think the best thing, try and phone me and leave me, if I'm not in the shop, leave a message with my assistant, who's called Marina, and I'll try and get a call back to you or text back to you at least. So leave her a mobile number and I'll get back to her. I don't want to put my mobile number on this though, because it's just it goes out of control. Okay. I hope that's helped you.
2.5. Sorry, I didn't mean to cross you, but
okay.
Sorry, I talked across you then. But we got 2.5 sort of questions left.
Okay.
Ancient Ruby says, I cannot eat food without, what's this? Lansopra.
Lansoprazole. And lately it still does.
Say that with a mouthful of nuts.
Work. Okay.
And lately it still does not work.
Okay, this is a question I can answer. The digestive tract is a very complex mechanism that I'm trying to explain in very simple terms. But basically, you've been on lansoprazole too long, and so I presume that you're getting either acid reflux, or you have a hiatus hernia, or you have heartburn, or food regurgitation, or GORD, that disease that I was talking about, gastroesophageal reflux disorder or disease. And you've probably been on lansoprazole for over 12 months. It's only actually been clinically trialed for 6 weeks, so you shouldn't have been on it that long. But so your digestive tract is slowly no reflux,
as she says.
Okay, so
yes.
So why have you on this?
Well, she says here, foods are poisonous, in my opinion.
Foods are poisonous. Okay. Maybe you're eating the wrong foods. Okay, for you, I would, again, by all means, give me a call. Are you local? Are you local to sort of
Essex.
London and Essex? If you are,
I'm allergic to many foods, so she says.
I can only say I'm allergic to. Mine's blanked out on my screen. So allergic to.
I'm allergic to many foods, and she's gone on to say, diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome.
Okay.
And then she's gone on to say she will ring you. Oh, I eat all organic.
Well, you're doing well to eat all organic. I applaud you for that. But
and she's going to ring. She's going to ring.
Please do ring me. Let me finish off what I was going to say. Okay. The fact is that sadly you've been on this for a long time, and I cannot eat foods. Oh, that's the original one. Right?
I have another one here. Was it pain under the right rib on eating foods?
Okay. I mentioned when I was talking about GORD, I mentioned a herb called Century. That may be what you need, but I would probably, you're one of the cases where I might go back even further and actually give you hydrochloric acid before each meal. And I would also try splitting up your proteins from your starches. So a sort of food combining type diet would probably be quite helpful. What happens is we use acid to break down proteins into amino acids, and then protease to carry those amino acids across the gut wall. They only operate in an acid-based environment. So the digestion of protein is purely in an acid-based environment. And it doesn't matter whether it's animal protein or plant protein. However, the only way you can digest starch and sugars is by using alkaline-based enzymes. So things like amylase and tyline and these kind of enzymes, which are produced mainly in the pancreas. There's a little bit in the mouth, but mainly in the pancreas. So what we do is, well, what I do with a case like this, I would actually go back to our ancestry, and man would have been a hunter-gatherer, and there's a lot of evidence suggesting he was a hunter-gatherer. So I understand that upsets certain people, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest that. So he would have gone out, and he wouldn't have been much of a hunter, because the fastest he can run is about 35 miles an hour. Well, an antelope runs at twice that. So even a deer can run at about 50 miles an hour. So wouldn't have been much of a hunter. He would have needed stealth. So he would have been a dawn and dusk hunter, because he's not nocturnal. He can't see in very, very, very low light levels. He would have brought the quarry back. He wouldn't have had much to defend. He wouldn't have been able to defend that quarry too well. You think how able and how tooled up a lion is, or a hyena, compared to us, for taking quarry away. So he would have taken that back to the village, shared out the meat as quickly as possible, and it would have probably been eaten in the morning. That's why we produce much more stomach acid in the morning. So I'm suggesting that you actually turn your diet around and have a keto diet is good, but you have all of your protein in the morning, and you have your starch in the evening, and only protein in the morning, only starch in the evening. And maybe in the middle of the day, if you're okay with it, you can have some more protein and some only complex carbohydrates. So no starches, no sugars. And that normally helps dramatically for people who have a problem with stomach acid. Do we have any other questions, Chris?
Here we go. Louise Tom has come back and said magnesium flakes in distilled water, and then she's gone on to say it makes into an oil and rubs in great, only up to 10 squirts per day. So
okay.
That's interesting. Also, now this is something. Misha says fasting may allow for healing. I might have something to say to that, because I'm not qualified, but I tried fasting. It didn't work for me, and I think it requires regarding your metabolism. I think that's it. Some people can, some people can't.
So who was that? Who said that?
That was Mish. Said fasting may allow for healing.
It appears. Well, I'm with Mish on this. It appears that fasting and having certain restrictions on times that you eat both keeps you slimmer, and it also it rests the digestive tract. So like any organ or any group of organs, you don't want to keep the digestive tract going 24/7. In fact, it will probably break if you do that in some way. So yeah, I think fasting is an important part of this. I probably don't fast enough, but it's also been proved that people who fast actually live longer. People who regularly fast actually live longer.
Good heavens.
So
Mish actually did say earlier, what about a juicer? This is his
answer. I don't like juicing. I'm not with you on that, Mish.
No.
Juicing, when you juice, you have your own juicer. You have your own juicer built in. It's called your teeth. And those teeth should be in good order, and should be able to crush fruit and vegetables so you get the juice out at that rate. If you're juicing with a mechanical juicer, there's very, very few juicers that are slow enough to actually not damage the compounds that you're juicing out. So let's say you get an orange. It's a very common juice, isn't it? Orange juice. So you juice an orange in a centrifugal or a bladed, like these ninja, what do they call? No, NutriBullets. they're so fast that they generate so much heat that they actually turn antioxidants into oxidants. There's a juicer. I don't have shares in this company. Perhaps I should. Called an Angel Juicer. It's a helical. It's like a thread that sort of rolls in like this, and it crushes the juice out. It's done very slowly. It's hellishly expensive. I think an Angel Juicer starts. I think they started around £1,500, and they're the ones that juice better. But juice is more or less sugar and water. You're taking the sugar and the water out of the plant material much too quickly, so you get a sugar high from it, and that's why most people go, oh, I feel great after I've had my juice. Yeah, you're getting a sugar high, and then an hour later they're saying, oh, I feel a bit tired actually, and then they have another juice. It's just a sugar high. Instead of doing it with glucose and Mars bars, they're doing it with orange juice and apple juice. No, it's not my favourite way of working at all.
Well, there's a very controversial one here. I mean, I'll very briefly, Ancient Herbalist just said, I can only eat one small meal a day or I suffer more pain, cannot eat breakfast. I think that's something that she needs to have a word with you privately about.
You're going to have to talk to me, Ancient Ruby, yes.
Yes, and she sort of said earlier that all food aggravates and turns to pain and sometimes throw up. Mind you, if you've eaten something I've cooked, I think you soon throw up. So anyway, there we go. So yeah,
does
I think
Ancient Ruby know what's actually going on? Has she had a diagnosis of what the medics are saying is going on?
Yes, that's an interesting question. Also, Louise Tom says Aberdeen Angus beef up here near me. I grow marrows. Oh, we live in Southend, do you? So there we go. And then this is another one from Louise Tom. She said, onion and apple drink for cancer. A few, I think you're going to have something to say about this. A few apple seeds. I was in your shop and somebody came in and asked this similar question. A few apple seeds crushed up, quarter of a teaspoon a day.
Okay.
I think you're going to say.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say something that keeps me out of the legal constraints that we're moving it towards. I can never say that any treatment will cure cancer. However, onion, there are certain components in onion, mainly the allicin, that would actually help with a few of the cancers. Apple drink, is that apple juice? I suppose it probably is. Well, apples, let's move away from the juicing and the drinking because it's a very controversial area. The eating apples certainly alkalize the bloodstream, and so that would help with towards starting to fix the body so the body can heal itself. Apple seeds, you'd need a lot. There's an element to the apple seeds, and there's a component in there which is it's actually cyanide, but it's organic cyanide. It's called latril, and that is a kind of bitter apricot kernels. Absolutely right. It's more commonly used bitter apricot kernels because there's more latril in them, or there's more B. It is not a vitamin.
That's what you said on.
So I don't refer to it as B17. If it was a vitamin, I would be happy to call it B17. It has a structure that looks similar to parts of the B vitamins. Latril is a kind of targeted natural chemotherapy. I wouldn't say it's for everybody with cancer, but it certainly seems to have some healing properties. The theory behind it is that you take this organic cyanide and you eat it, normally in the form of bitter apricot kernels. It builds up inside the cells. Now, ordinary cells can detoxify it. However, cancer cells can't detoxify it. So you keep feeding it and it builds up to a critical level in the cancer cell and only kills the cancer cells off. I've had a number of patients that I've used this with, and I've had very few failures, I have to say, and quite a bit of success with it. So it's worth a try, but be very, very careful. There's actually a story that a Polish person told me who was also training with me. Evidently, they have like in Germany, they have the Oktoberfest. They have a apricot fest, and in Poland, and they have everything to do with the apricot. And so the kernels are used, and they're used like almonds, and they make pies with them and things like this, and they make macaroons with them, and every year, evidently, 2 or 3 people die from it's not funny, but they die from apricot kernel poisoning or cyanide poisoning. So it's simply because they've gone from stall to stall having a apricot kernel macaroon, and apricot kernel pie, and apricot kernel beer, and apricot kernel everything, and it's just too much. Without knowing the person, without knowing how they are, start very, very low if you're going to try maybe 2 apricot kernels or 3, and then build up slowly. If you get any feeling of nausea, sickness, if you get excessive diarrhea, then cut it out, and then start from half the level that you were at. It really needs someone to take you through it. It needs someone to be there in attendance to help you work with those apricot kernels, in my opinion.
Well, thanks, Miles. We're coming up to our hour now. We've got over the hour. Okay, and
so let's do 3 more questions if there are 3 more.
Well, I think we've got back. I think we're okay now. I mean, Mish said what we said was about cyanide. Yes, that's it. And it's funny that question came up when I was in your shop, when a client walked in and he was talking about vitamins. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
And it's funny that's funny come along. But Ancient Ruby has said that her doctor has just said it's IBS, irritable bowel syndrome.
Yeah, very quickly then, Ruby. IBS is, like I said, a non-specific ailment. Give me a call, and we'll go through it. I'm in the shop tomorrow. It's going to be a funny sort of day because unfortunately my colleague isn't going to be there all day, and I have a fair few acupuncture treatments. So I may take your number and phone you back if that's okay. And the same applies to Yorkshire. What was the lady's name?
Yorkshire Rose.
Yorkshire Rose. If she can phone me up during the day, it'd be very, very helpful. I am going to also be in on Saturday, and I will probably be more free on Saturday to talk.
Right. And that's because you do alternative Saturdays. Excuse me, we got something unpleasant just come. Oh no, God, no, we're getting rid of these. We got some trolls come. Not trolls. These are what they call them, robots or something. So I'm trying to get rid of them. Sorry, it came up on the screen. I accidentally pressed the wrong button. But you got to get rid of them. Can you just excuse just a second? I've blocked this damn user, and it still keeps coming black. It's like a boomerang. This is. Oh no, it's coming. I'm blocking it like anything, and it still keeps coming back. Go away, But that's it. I'll have to jam it out. Hang on. Right. Timeout. Right. I put it on timeout. That should block it. Right. You get them from time to time. It's not a troll. It's one of these robots that sends dating sites through and things like that. And everybody's plagued with them. I think they come from Nigeria or somewhere. But anyway, that's besides the point. Thanks very much for coming on, Miles. It's been absolutely brilliant. And I think we plan to do, was it one a month, isn't it?
We'll certainly do another one before Christmas arrives. Well, I hope we will.
Yes.
And if there's any continuing questions or anything like that, either phone me in the shop or I'll have them ready for me next time. Next time, the next show that I'll be doing will be on the third way in which you can have nutritional deficiencies, and that's where your cells don't act on those nutrients. So it's going to be more about the illnesses that we see as illnesses. I actually believe all illnesses are nutritionally linked. So and I'll explain that in the next show. Yeah, all illnesses are nutritionally linked. You can't rebuild. You couldn't rebuild a house if it's made of bricks. You couldn't rebuild a house unless you had some bricks. Likewise with your with your body, if you've got a problem and something's shutting down or something's failing to work, if you haven't got the right materials to restructure and rebuild that that organ or that gland or that whatever, then you're not going to be able to get that to function again. I'm not saying that every time you have the right materials you're going to get it to function, but I'm saying without them you stand no chance of getting them to function.
I agree with you. And also, and I'm slightly going off track here, when I came back from that foraging walk, which I went on last Sunday, it made me realize that nature has the vitamins and minerals that we need. And our ancestors would have known, not necessarily about the different numbers of the vitamins or vitamin C or whatever, but they would have known what to eat to keep them healthy.
Absolutely.
The whole, when we had woods, which they're building on now, you could go out and you've got a pharmacy there. You've got everything you really want. And only in when he walked about a couple of miles, and that couple of miles, the amount of medicinal plants there were, it was quite amazing. But that's for another time. And I know that you're heavily into that as well, aren't you, Miles?
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you again.
And, well, thank you. It's a fantastic show. I'll have to play it over several times because it's so informative what Miles comes out with. Please join us again on Monday. We hope to have John Hamer back if he sorted his internet out. And also, it's at 8 o'clock. As I say, a regular spot is 8 o'clock every Monday. And every month we'll do an 8 o'clock spot on a Thursday. And the reason Miles doesn't come on a Monday is because you have a very busy day on Monday. That's when you've got your clinic open.
I've got a clinic that's a nutritional clinic that works on normally to about 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. That's
right. And also you've got, I think it's a 3-month waiting list as well. So that's quite
about that. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Let me have a think. December, January, February. Yeah, 3.5 months, something like that. Yeah.
That shows how good Miles is. Brilliant. Now, please shove the thumbs up and subscribe. It costs you nothing to subscribe. And I always say, have a laugh, but that's on my Monday show. It would be a little bit to say, have a laugh. Just say, keep healthy. Let's say it that one. And if you listen to Miles, you will keep healthy. So thank you very much. And
keep healthy.
Thank you.